Hey, yo, what's going on YouTube? It is the miraculous Jared the Analyst, and I'm back. It's that time of the year, man. We're finally here, man. It's NBA Finals time. We finally know the two teams that will be battling it out for the NBA championship. And I'm here to give y'all my predictions, man. And just get some talk about what I think is going to go down in the series and just how I think it's going to play out. Um, but yeah, also apologize too, real quick. My nose is stuffy. Dealing with a lot of allergies, so if I sound congested, that's why. But anywho, yeah, so very interesting pathway for both of these teams. I think Denver, a bit more straightforward, in terms of just how they got here, beating Minnesota in the first round, and then second round beating Phoenix, which, I think um, most people saw that series going either way, you know what I'm saying? But the fact that Denver actually won, I don't think that was much of a surprise to a lot of people. But then lastly, you have them beating the Los Angeles Lakers in the fashion that they did, which was a sweep, and just being able to get back to the final or get to the finals for the first time. And yeah, just being able to handle the Lakers as precise as not precise, but as dominantly as they did. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people expected that, but still regardless of that, I think people have accepted that Jokic is one of the greatest players that we've seen in the past 10 to 15 years. Um, and just the offensive impact that he has is so transcendent that it's like it's crazy. It's off the charts. But then we have on the other side the Miami Heat, who I think have had um, an even crazier path to the finals. Obviously, them being the eighth seed, they had to first face the Milwaukee Bucks, who didn't feature Giannis for game two and game three, but still ended up in game four and game five, coming back and handily beating the Bucks. Um, and then going into the second round, beating the New York Knicks. Not really much of I guess, a threat there. But then going into the conference finals against the Boston Celtics, and even though they nearly blew a 3-0 lead, they still were able to. They still were able to defeat the Celtics in the manner that they did. And I think overall with Miami, just and both teams, honestly, the biggest thing I've seen from them was just the execution down the stretch and how both teams um, just seem to know what to do at the right moments, whereas their opponents, the Lakers and the Celtics, just got to those crunch times and just weren't able to make things happen. The Lakers shot very badly that series against the Nuggets, and so did Boston. Although Boston was still pretty inconsistent. Um, but yeah, what it really came down to for me was just the um, the ability to create advantages and execute down the stretch of games. And yeah, that's really what made the difference. So I think when we come into this series, the NBA Finals, that's really where I think a lot of questions arise. For one, I look at Miami and I really, I first off, credit, like I said in my last recap, but credit to Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, everybody that came and showed up in that Boston series. But I just don't know if that's replicable. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they can do that again um, against, the Denver Nuggets, who may not be as talented defensively, but are I would say are a better unit than the Boston Celtics. But I don't know if that's sustainable. There's I think Caleb Martin shot like 49% from three that series. couple other guys shooting like almost 50% from three that series. So, is that going to be sustainable for another, 6 to 7 games? I don't know. I don't know. And I think the point, because I just watched a couple people who gave their analysis, but I think the point that I really liked the most, that kind of exemplified my feelings, or showed the way that I feel about this series, is the idea of creating advantages. I think both of these teams, in terms of just executing, like I said, down the stretch, and their defensive execution and just being able to make adjustments, I think they're fairly equal on that note. And even just their matchups in terms of the role players, I feel like they're fairly even. But where the difference comes is obviously the two star players, right? Which would be, Jokic and Murray for Denver, and Bam and Jimmy for Miami. During the Celtics series, I was seeing a lot of times where Bam, just really didn't have it going, especially the last couple games of the series, where he just really didn't have it going offensively. And Miami was still able to, get the win, especially in Game 7. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that against Jokic. Just being able to not be that lackadaisical, but just having off nights like that. You maybe could get away with it against Boston, who, on the offensive side for them, they were not as polished as they probably should have been. But against the Denver Nuggets, where they are one of the best offenses, not just in the league, but in recent history, you just can't allow yourself to have those lapses where your two best players aren't they're not on goal, and they're not being consistent throughout the series. And then Jimmy, especially throughout the series, as the series went on, and that's one thing I will give to Boston, is I was seeing that as Boston was giving Jimmy different looks, and throwing bigger defenders onto him and throwing different defenders onto him, he did seem to get more apprehensive down the stretch, or just even throughout the game, where he was very selective about the type of shots that he took, and when he passed, and what he was doing. And you heard it multiple times on commentary. Stan Van Gundy was talking about how Jimmy had to kind of adjust from how he typically would pump fake as he got into the paint. He would 2-foot hop, jump stop, pivot, pump fake, do all that to try to draw fouls. And every time he was doing that, he was getting blocked, or his shot was getting altered. But you saw in Game 7 where he adjusted for that, and every time he went into the paint or he drove, he just went up. He didn't try to fake or shift or anything. He just went up strong. And although I do credit Jimmy for that, again, I did notice that there was a bit of a mental adjustment that he had to make as the series went on. So I think with Denver, when they start throwing different looks at him, I wonder how Jimmy's going to react to that. And like I said, you can't really afford a Game 6 from Jimmy like he did, a 5 for 20 game from Jimmy. You can't really afford that. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure you're on point every single game. But what I mean by creating advantages is I feel that Bam and Jimmy, a lot of the times, it comes down to just Jimmy making tough shots, Bam, getting an offensive rebound, or Caleb Martin, again, like I said, the sustainability of what he was doing. I mean, as great as he played that series, is that sustainable? Do we think Caleb Martin is going to continue to give you that production? Whereas Denver, I already know off rip that Jokic and Jamal Murray are going to be able to create looks off of each other in their play style. Bam and Jimmy don't really create advantages off of their play styles. They kind of just, pass the, screen, give it to Bam in the post if he gets the mismatch, and then let him work. And even Bam is not that polished of a post player. And again, Jimmy, depending on the type of matchups that he sees, he's kind of he's not. We don't necessarily know if he's going to attack it or not, or if he's going to try to create advantages for his teammates. But I know with Jokic and Murray, they're off rip. As soon as they get a mismatch or they have an advantage, they're going to go after it, and they're not going to hesitate or anything like that. So that's why I think definitely Miami's going to be tested the most, and especially because They like playing zone, which again, if you watch the series, especially Game 7, Boston was having a very hard time in that series. But again, against one of the greatest offense that we've seen in the past couple of years, and just how prolific that Jokic is in terms of his passing and his playmaking, also his scoring and just getting his teammates involved. And I just wonder how that zone will affect the Nuggets, and even just the different looks that Eric Spoelstra decides to throw at Jokic, and Jamal Murray for that matter. So, but with all that being said, I do think the Nuggets will win in 6 games. 7 is maybe stretching it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went 7. But I can confidently say that I think Denver will win, and they will win in 6. I think overall, like I said, it's just the advantage creation that is the difference maker for me. As great as Miami is, and as much of Rough Riders that they are, they're able to hang around and continue fighting. I just think the lapses that they have sometimes, especially with Jimmy and Bam, the lapses that they have sometimes, and sometimes they have moments where they just can't make shots. I just feel like that's going to bite them a lot harder against the Denver Nuggets, who are, again, one of the most prolific offenses in the past couple of years. And you just can't really allow yourself to have those lapses in terms of your game. So, but yeah, so that's kind of where I stand. Y'all let me know where you stand at, how you feeling. And yeah, man, the game going to be tonight. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you follow my IG and my maybe not my Twitter, because I'm not really on Twitter too much now, but definitely my IG, Jared the Analyst, just to stay posted with me, and just definitely try to be a bit more active on that as well, and just try to find more interactive things to do. But I'm gonna try to make sure I could rep out this content as well for y'all. And yeah, again, apologize for my voice and just congested, allergies. But anywho, y'all stay safe, man. Y'all continue to do y'all thing. Again, let me know what y'all think. Y'all like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, all that jazz, man. So, till next time, peace.